Thank you very much. Jai Radha Ma. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my respectful obeisance. All glory to his confounder, Shara Shubha. Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes, good day.
You're welcome, Maharaj.
Thank you. Ms. Salika?
Yes, Maharaj, it's me.
Okay, nobody here yet.
Yeah, it's unusual time for them, so I'm going to share the Zoom link to the group so that they can be reminded.
Okay, because they did announce the time.
We did announce, but I guess they forgot.
Yeah. No, I saw that it was announced. At least I got announced.
Yeah, it's unusual time for them, so I'm going to share the Zoom link to the group so that they can be reminded.
All right. Okay. Did announce the time.
We did announce, but yes. So I'm going to share the Zoom link to the group so that they can be reminded.
All right. Okay. Did announce the time.
We did announce, but yes. So I'm going to share. So, Maharaja, I'll play Prabhupada for some few minutes while we wait for some other devotees. I think they start coming.
No problem. I'm waiting.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Your assets are not just the flow
Hare
or the
Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram,
walk through the groups,
Hare
pushing away customers with suspicion is no way to run a store.
Okay, look, I don't have time to debate retail philosophy with you. Either she can afford the suit or she can't. So, which is it?
I've decided I'm going to purchase this suit for her. So you see, whether she can afford it is no longer your concern.
You buying one of our most expensive suits for a stranger? Honestly, that's hard to believe. You were just interviewing for an associate job earlier, so.
Believe what you will. I mean, but I won't stand by and watch you accuse someone unjustly. How she pays for the suit is between her and me. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to make sure she gets what she needs and that she gets to try it on without further interruption.
No, you're not going anywhere.
Lewis. I'm about to share something with you that I hope will change your perspective on how you treat people, both employees and customers.
And what's that? Boy, you're gonna give me a lecture on customer service? Okay, save it. I've heard enough from you for one day.
No, Lewis. I'm going to tell you who I am. I'm Jane Everett, the CEO of this brand. I went undercover because basically I wanted to see firsthand how our stores are operating and how our staff.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my respectful obeisances. All glories to his confounded Charles, His Divine Grace, Laisi Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to you, His Holiness Kapachanda Swami Maharaj. So, devotees, we welcome you to today's Srimad Bhagavatam class. Today is the 20th of June, 2024. And today we are honored to have our dear spiritual father, our mentor, our guide, our spiritual father, His Holiness Kapachanda Swami Maharaj, who is going to be speaking with us from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Maharaj, thank you very much for honoring the invitation. You're welcome. So, Maharaj, I'll put the verse on the screen and we can start while other devotees join.
Okay.
I'll have HR finalize your paperwork. Now let's get you ready for that interview. Let's do it.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Nanam Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nasta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavat Bhagavat Yuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhagati Naiti Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta.
I'm and I'm Namarita. Welcome to Nectar Talk.
Swaminiti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desa Tarine. Namo Mahavaranyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namani Gora Tushe Namaha. Hey Krishna, Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari. Okay, so it looks like we have a few verses without purports, right?
Yes, we're treating 5 and 6.
How many, what do you want, 5 and 6 or more?
Yeah, I think it's 5 and 6. We'll read 5. Then 6 has a short purport, but we hoping that you speak on the 5 and 6.
Okay, we'll see what we can do.
So I have the text 5 on the screen.
I'm trying, it says it's on YouTube and I can't somehow get it to go to my, can't get that to come up. Sometimes it's like, okay, number 5, I'll just read this one. Sutuvacha Saevam Rishi Varyoyam Krishto Ragya Parikshita Pratyaha Tam Subahu Vit Pritatma Shuyatam Iti. Sutta Goswami said, the great sage Sukadeva was highly experienced and was pleased with the king. Thus, being questioned by the king, he said, please hear the topics attentively. Okay, I'm going to put up the next one.
Yes.
Number 6. Sishuku Vacha. Yadatu Rajo Swasutam Asadam Vashnan Na Dharmena Vinashta Drishti Bratur Yavishtasya Sutan Vibandun Pravesha Laksha Bhavane Dadaha. Anyone else?
Sri Sutta Uvacha Yadatu Rajaswastu Tanasadan Pushnam Na Dharmane Vinasta Drishi Bratu Yasvistasya Sutam Vibadahan Pravishya Laksha Bhavane Dadaha. Mother, you
Anyone
want to
else?
try?
Okay. Sukuvacha. Sukadeva Goswami said, Yada, when, to, but, Raja, King Dhritarashtra, Swasutam, his own sons, Asadun, dishonest, Pushnan, nourishing, Na, never, Dharmena, on the right path, Vinashta Drishti, one who has lost his insight, Bratu, of his brother, Yavishtasya, younger, Sutan, sons, Vibandun, having no guardian, or father, Pravesha, made to enter, Taksha, lacquer, Bhavane, in the house, Dadaha, set on fire. Wow. Sri Sukadeva Goswami said, King Dhritarashtra became blind under the influence of impious desires to nourish his dishonest sons. And thus he set fire to the lacquer house to burn the fatherless nephews of the Pandavas. Purport. Dhritarashtra was blind from birth, but his blindness in committing impious activities to support his dishonest sons was a greater blindness than his physical lack of eyesight. The physical lack of eyesight does not bar one from spiritual progress. But when one is blind spiritually, even though physically fit, that blindness is dangerous, detrimental to the progressive path of human life. Joy. Okay, so that's a lot in that purport, actually, in this pastime also. Now what happened? Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here, Maharaj. Okay, you want me to bring back the...
No, I see. When you turned off the picture, then I can't see that. Zoom.
Okay, I just brought it up. So...
and see who's there. Anyway, I see it says it's being live streamed. But I'm trying to, I don't get the Zoom now. Let's see if I can get it.
Yeah, we on live YouTube, Maharaj.
Yeah, that's what I heard, but all I'm getting now is the Zoom login page. I don't see the, I don't see the, I don't
could
see
share
all.
this
I don't see any.
link to you on the group chat.
I just see the, back to meeting. Okay, got it. All right. Girihara Puja Das. Right. Who's Nishringa? That's your baby or your husband? Huh? Oh, that's your husband, huh? Okay. So we have a very small group today.
Yeah, I
I'm
guess
just
because of
trying to
time.
put this live on my Facebook, but I can't get to the YouTube.
Yeah,
There,
I'll put the
okay.
YouTube link on the. I'll put the
I got
YouTube
it. I got the
chat.
link is there. It just didn't work. I got it. Okay. So I don't know how much everybody knows that this past time, the Pandavas, Dhritarashtra, it's a very mysterious, the whole, the whole thing. That Pandu was a very good king and very, very popular, but somehow or other I don't know if he was just taking a holiday or what, but he went with his wife and he left Dhritarashtra in charge, although Dhritarashtra couldn't be the king, but somehow he could, wasn't really the king, but the ministers were handling everything. And so, but Dhritarashtra was the elder brother, and he wanted his sons, because he couldn't be the king, but he wanted his sons to be the king. So I can just fill everybody in, and maybe you don't know so much Mahabharata Leelas, but Gandhari, she was the wife of Dhritarashtra. She was pregnant. And Kunti, the wife of Pandu, they were in the forest, but she was also pregnant. And Yudhishthira was born first. So when Yudhishthira was born, Gandhari, who's noted to be like one of the great women in history and everything, but still a woman, she got very upset that her son, wasn't going to have.
Oh, Maharaj's network, I think, is unsteady. So I'm sure it's going to come back. So meanwhile, I pray Prabhupada. Jap.
कुञ्ज विहारी जय राधा माधव कुञ्ज विहारी गोपी जना बाला बाजयो गिरिवर धारी गोपी जना बाला बाजयो गिरिवर धारी यशोदानन्दन जय ब्रज जन रञ्जन यशोदानन्दन जय ब्रज जन रञ्जन यशोदानन्दन जय
Hari Bol. I got cut off. I'm back.
Yeah,
Some of
man.
my Wi-Fi was weird. Okay, now I'm using my phone, so it's on different. All right, so I'll go over again. I was saying to get some background on this whole Leela that's mentioned here, in case devotees here are not so familiar with the Mahabharata. So Pandu, and they were all sons of Vyasadeva, also Dhritarashtra, Pandu, and Vidura. And Dhritarashtra was older, but he was blind, so by the rules, he couldn't be the king. So Pandu became the king. He was very popular. He was a very good king, very, great fighter, everything. But he took a holiday and he left Dhritarashtra. And during that time, Gandhari, the wife of Dhritarashtra, and Kunti, the wife of Pandu, they were both pregnant. But Yudhishthira was born first, the son of Pandu. So Gandhari, who was pregnant, she got so frustrated that her son wasn't going to be able to be the king by the proper way they run it. She started beating on her pregnant belly, and a big lump of flesh came out. But then they called Vyasadeva because the grandmother was the daughter of Vyasadeva. So he cut up the lump of flesh into 100 and put it in jars with ghee and whatever. And then they got 99 boys and one girl. And headed by Duryodhana, the oldest one. And he was very envious, very evil. And Dhritarashtra backed him, even though many times he knew better. But he backed his... So after Pandu died, then Kunti came with these boys, the 5 sons. And they were living there in Hastinapur and under the shelter of Dhritarashtra. They were all schooling together. And they grew up, and Yudhishthira was extremely popular. The descriptions is like you hear in Ramayana of Lord Ram. The people loved him unlimitedly, and everybody was looking forward to him becoming the king. And when he got old enough, and so Duryodhana made a plan to eliminate the Pandavas. So he wanted to send them because he was acting. He made the plan. Dhritarashtra went along with it. There's one scene in the movie, the Mahabharata movie, where Bhishma comes in to talk to Dhritarashtra to be reasonable. The way he's, not acting like a king. And Dhritarashtra says, oh, but my son, my son. And Bhishma says, I came here to talk to a king, not a father. The king has to treat everyone equally. Like Krishna says in the Krishna book, we'll find that if my own son does something wrong, I'll punish him the same as anyone else who does the same crime. And if my enemy does something good, I'll reward him the same as I would reward my own son. But Dhritarashtra was never like that. He always would go along with Duryodhana's evil plans. So the plan was to send them to another part of the kingdom, and they sent someone ahead to build a house for them, but the house was built out of lac, which is very flammable. But Vidura, the wise, who was the youngest brother, but he was not in the royal line because his mother was a maidservant, even though the father was Vasudev. So he understood the plot. He knew about it because he was a minister and he was always around. And by some very subtle signals, he warned Yudhisthira. So Yudhisthira knew about it. And so there was someone living there, and his idea was that he would start it on fire when the Pandavas were all sleeping. But they knew the plan, and Yudhisthira had brought or Vidura had sent a miner, and he dug a tunnel where they could get out from the fire, the 5 Pandavas and Kunti. So Bhima actually went and started the fire. Everybody was ready, and so that burned up this agent of Duryodhana. It also happened that some like homeless family, a mother and 5 sons, they were sleeping there that night. So they burned up. And the Pandavas got out through the tunnel, and then they were fearful, so they just went deep into the forest. And they found that the dead bodies of this woman and the 5 sons, burned up bodies, and they didn't have, DNA testing or anything. And it was assumed that they were the Pandavas. So Duryodhana and everybody acted like they felt really, really distressed, and, they had funerals, and only Vidura didn't look disturbed because he knew the Pandavas had escaped. But everybody thought, oh, Vidura is just a spiritually wise person, so he's not lamenting. He's not lamenting the death of the Pandavas. So the Pandavas escaped. So I'm just going back to see the previous verse, 4 was a long purport. So this is still part of, Vidura's questions of Maitreya Rishi. Anyway, verse 6. So Dhritarashtra, it's a really amazing character. That he was trained fully, and and he knew Krishna is actually supreme. He knew he was wrong, but he had this, like in Shakespeare, they have what they call the tragic flaw. Somebody's like a very great person, but he has a tragic flaw. Like myself, I'm a spirit soul. And you know, I have a tragic flaw that I'm still attached to this body. I still think I'm something special, you know. But anyway, he was attached too much to his evil son. So he was blinded by that. He wanted his son to be the king. So he would, you know, do these terrible things. This was to try to murder all the Pandavas and their mother. But it failed. Previously, Duryodhana had tried to poison Bhima. That failed. Actually, the Pandavas, because they were fathers were all demigods, they couldn't be killed anyway. But they didn't, you know, they didn't realize that. They're so ambitious for position, for title and power, not at all concerned about the citizens. And Yudhisthira was a perfect king who would, you know, do all kinds of yagyas for the benefit of all the citizens and tapasya. And so physical blindness does not limit. We have in our movement quite a few blind devotees. I know one in South Africa. He's actually a famous musician, and but he sings and plays his organ and sings devotional songs, Maha mantras, and Govindamadi Purusham, and he's actually a very popular musician, and he's a very good devotee. So that, and in some languages they've even published books in Braille language because there's blind people who want to be devotees. So blind, deaf, crippled, it doesn't restrict one from being a devotee, but spiritual blindness does. You know, being too much attached to the body, too much attached to material gain and power and position, which is Duryodhana. And sometimes Dhritarashtra would, you know, disagree with Duryodhana. I'm just telling a few leelas, you know. When he wanted to make the first gambling match, and the second gambling match, the first one, you know, they took away everything, but then it was kind of nullified, and they gave the Yudhisthira half the kingdom, but it was a desert. But it started to flourish, so Duryodhana was extremely envious, and he came up with this idea of another cheating gambling match. And Dhritarashtra said, "Why you know, you have more than Yudhisthira as far as a kingdom. You're unlimitedly wealthy," and he said, I can't tolerate to see Yudhisthira having one drop of happiness." And Dhritarashtra tried to talk him out of it, and Duryodhana said, you know, if I can't have the gambling match, then I'll have to go to war and conquer because I have a bigger, you know, armies. And Dhritarashtra was against that, and he said, okay, if I don't go to war, then I'll suicide myself, you know. And then Dhritarashtra, oh, no, my son, my son, my son, my son, my son, oh, my son, my son. And he gave him permission for this cheating gambling match. So poor, unfortunate Dhritarashtra, too much attached to the son, you know. Of course, we should be attached to our children, but if they're demons and they're totally against Krishna, then we have to give it up, you know. And a very advanced devotee like Kunti, her whole family was great devotees, but still she's praying to be not detached to her family, you know, in a bodily conscious way, you know. Can be attached to the family for sadhusanga, for spiritual life, but not as sentimental family life, you know, if it's hindering it. In this case of Dhritarashtra, it's not only hindering his own life, but, you know, the whole kingdom, the whole world. So we're, you know, the Bhagavatam is giving us everything. The greatest devotees, the greatest demons, you know, the highest truths, the most, you know, degraded wrong philosophies. Everything is very clearly presented in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And if we just hear it and submissively, it has a medicinal effect. We can't say that we can understand and know it. And, we may know a few slokas. You may know all the slokas, but it doesn't mean you understand it. What we have to understand is Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam. That's what's the Sanskrit word, Salika, for the most important verse, the basic verse upon which we understand the rest of the book. You know the word? You don't know? Anyway, that's this verse. Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam.
Etim Shamsam Kalampum Cham, Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam.
Indra Vyakalamya. So Krishna is the original. Krishna is the source. So based on that verse, that's how we have to understand the Bhagavatam. Because sometimes it looks like, Krishna is an incarnation of Vishnu. And that's just another mystery. I've been reading Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela 4 and 5, 6, and 7. Especially 5. The glories of Nityananda, which is all, about all the Chaturvyuhas and the spiritual and the material and all the Mahavishnus and the Garbhodakashayi Vishnus and all about these things. And it even says that you can say Krishna is the incarnation of Varaha even, or Nrsingadev, and that's all right. But still, Krishna is the original. All the incarnations are, when Krishna himself comes and appears on the earth, all the other avatars are within his body. So that's how he can carry out so many different activities, and it's Krishna's activity is, intimate association with his friends and family. But killing the demons and doing all these other things is the activities of different avatars, but they're all within Krishna's body because he's the source of all of them. Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam. Ramadi Murtishu Kala Niyamena Tishtan Nanavatara Makarod Bhuvanesha Kintu Krishna Swayam Samabhak Paramak Pumanyo Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. So it's the verse is, the Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam. There's a name for the verse, which is the basic verse. So Jiva Goswami, I think it's in the Krishna Sandarbha, where he's proving that Krishna is God, because there's confusion in different verses in the Bhagavatam that Krishna might be an incarnation of Narayan, which most Hindus believe. So he says, in order to understand the Bhagavatam, this is the key verse. Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam. There's so many incarnations, and they come to save the day when the enemies of Indra are harassing the universe. But Krishna is the origin. Krishna is the source of all of them. Matak parataram nanya kinchid asti dhananjaya mai sarvam idam protam sutre manigana iva. Krishna says, I'm the beginning and the end of everything. Hamadir, what is it? Hamadiri Gabalam, I'm the source, I'm the first. Everything comes from me. He says it over and over again in all the scriptures. There's no contradiction. And Dhritarashtra, somehow he knew something about that, but he just was blinded by this attachment to his son. So that it's to show us, we have to be careful. Anything that distracts us from thinking that Krishna is the source and the goal and the origin of the Vedas, the understanding of the Vedas, the goal of the Vedas, like Krishna says, right? Vedai Sarham Aham Vivedya Vedanta Vid Viveda Vid Eva Chaham. I'm the source of the Vedas, I'm the goal of the Vedas, all the Vedas, So it's so simple that it can elude us. But it's found in every scripture in different ways. If the Bhagavatam just gives us much more details, of how all these things are actually happening. So, here, this part of the Bhagavatam, is a lot of it's, also in the Mahabharata, maybe with a few more details. But like Ridananda Maharaj said, the Mahabharata is a lot of Leela with a little philosophy. And the Bhagavatam is a little bit of Leela with a lot of philosophy. The Leela is in a summary form for the most part. And then the explanation of it and the understanding of Krishna's position is very, extensively detailed. Whereas in the Mahabharata, you get a lot of Leela, a lot of details about every arrow and every weapon and every blow and every wound and so many things. But you don't get the stress that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although it's mentioned in many times. It's not stressed as the main thing. Therefore, Vyas was, told, or no, Narada told Vyas, that's why you're not happy, because you failed to thoroughly and properly just, present the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Vyas being the incarnation, of intelligence and literature, he understood his spiritual master, so he did that Srimad Bhagavatam. The Srimad Bhagavatam is like original with the universe. The four Kumaras heard the Srimad Bhagavatam from Anantashesha, who's an incarnation of Nityananda or Balaram. And then Sukadev also heard from the four Kumaras. He heard from many different sources. He also heard from his own father and his father's disciples. So it's not a new book. Generally, we're in our history, our little tiny bit of history that we have, the Bhagavatam is a commentary on the Vedanta Sutra, which is also written by Vyas, but it's in codes, and it's very hard for anyone except a very advanced Sanskrit scholar to understand. But actually, the Bhagavatam is first in the history of the universe, that the millions of years that the universe is, existing. The numbers are so big that you can experiment. I've been reading the fifth canto, the structure of the universe, and even the structure of Jambudweep and small parts of the universe. And the numbers are just so huge that hundreds of millions of yojanas and, but it's all important, and it's what gives us, the understanding of how great is Krishna. That because it always comes back that out of all these huge numbers of universe and planets and people living for millions of years and being the king for millions of kalpas, and how great is Krishna, that it's all just little insignificant plenary portions of Krishna, not even a plenary portion, a portion of a portion. Yasyaika nistasita kalam tavalambi jivanti loma villaja jagadandanata Vishnur Mahan Sahitya Yasya Kalavishesho Govindamadi Prusham tamaham bhajami. All right. There's one more verse that without a purport, which is in the same line, text number 7. It's just another thing that, Dhritarashtra allowed. The king did not forbid his son Dushasana his abominable action of grabbing the hair of Draupadi, who was the queen, and trying to rip off her clothes, the most abominable thing. So Dhritarashtra put up with it because Duryodhana was pleased with it. So that's just unfortunate character, but still, at the end, Vidura came and preached to him, woke him up, and he went off and was able to die in the forest in some kind of yogic trance. He got blessed. But he was miserable. He suffered so much, and, for this, especially for this abuse of Draupadi. It says that's the cause of the whole downfall of the whole Kuru dynasty, mistreating women. Similarly, in the Ramayana, the cause of the whole destruction of Ravana's dynasty was his mistreating Sita. So we should be very careful about treating ladies. We have to be very respectful, because if we're supposed to see them as mothers, but in Kali Yuga, men even kill their mother, or rob their mother to get their intoxication, or all kinds of horrible things. But basically, most people are, have some kind of love for their mother and would never want to see their mother abused. But sometimes we think, the wife is my property or something like that. But no, the wife is not to be seen as a mother, like many of the Africans introduce this as my Mataji. But if they see that, then they'll be maybe more respectful. It's not necessarily your mother, but their mothers, and mothers should be respected, because without mothers, we're not going to have a population for very long. And the demons now, they're trying to eliminate mothers and trying to encourage this sex, gender change and mutilating the genitals and, homosex and all these different things to eliminate motherhood. Demoniac stuff is going on. And we have to know, so that we get understanding of the urgency of, the spreading Krishna consciousness and bringing people to human life, where they feel some compassion for everyone, for nature. You can look back into any culture, any traditional culture, even the hunters, that were, nowadays they think we're like cavemen or something very uncivilized. But they had great respect for nature, and they were able to live for millions of years in harmony with nature without destroying the environment. And now modern men, in a very short number of years, they've just polluted the rivers, they've destroyed forests, polluted the air, eliminated many species of animals and plants, vegetables. So, but Harinama Hariname Kevalam, the holy name is the medicine. It's the thing, the powerful. We have to take it and take it seriously, chant the holy name attentively, and spread the holy name. Spreading the holy name helps us to chant the holy name. Chanting the holy name carefully helps us to be empowered and understand the need to share it, give it to everybody. So we want to be like Yudhisthira, like the Pandavas, depending on Krishna. The Pandavas suffered apparently, so much from Dhritarashtra. But they never complained. They never complained to Krishna, why are you letting this happen to me? Yudhishthira did ask, why is this happening? What have I done wrong? And Krishna said, when I especially benedict someone, then I take away everything. Now that's also another not so easy to understand or accept, but Krishna does it. He has his own, sometimes the devotees ask, why did Krishna do this? Why did Krishna do that? Because he wants to. Because he knows better. So sometimes things don't make sense. If you watch a chess champion, he may give away some important piece and you think, no, he should have saved, he should have protected that one. But then if we knew the game, it was a strategic thing to throw off the other person. Whatever they do like that, fighters will pretend they're really injured and be limping to trick the other guy. So Krishna does all kinds of things that we can never understand. But his goal is to get us and everyone else back to Godhead. It's guaranteed for us. You just stick to the process. Chant, keep your initiation vows, chant 16 rounds, follow the regulative principles, read Prabhupada's books, and do some kind of service regularly. Service to devotees, whatever, it's going to bring us to the point of being able to chant all the time. And we just heard from Mother Devi Shakti, how everything we're doing is chanting if we're doing devotional service. Now, I'd just like to end at something I just came across. I had noted it down before. How the personality of Kali came about. So like we all have we have parents, we have grandparents, we have great-grandparents, and we're descended from some family. Some people are very proud, they have a
No, we're not hiding in marriage.
so-called really good family, right? And
Something
others
happened. Okay, now we can hear you now.
yeah. So anyway, some of us have, my mother used to try to get the family tree, and she could have been in the SAR, it's called, no, at DAR, Daughters of the American Revolution, because some ancestor fought in the American Revolution. I could be in that Sons of the American Revolution, some kind of big prestige, and somebody else's family, I mean, my mother's family supposedly came on the Mayflower, if you ever heard American history, and they're proud. But then she was showing me the more recent family members, and he was so wonderful, so handsome, so smart, but he was an alcoholic. I was thinking, what's so great about this family, all these drunkards. But people are trying to find, the connection like that. But we all have the connection with Krishna. We all have the great heritage. But anyway, the history of Kali there was a son of Lord Brahma, irreligion. And he had a wife named Falsity. So irreligion and falsity combined, and they had children named Dumba and Maya. That means bluffing and cheating. And they had demon. They were taken away by another demon named Niriti. He didn't have any children. Then Dumba and Maya, they had children, greed and cunning. And from them combining, they had children, Krodha, anger, and Himsa, envy. Anger and envy. And then anger and envy, who were sisters and brother, they got together, and Kali and his sister were born. Kali's sister was Durukti, harsh speech, Kali. And Kali means quarrel and harsh speech. And then their brother and sister. And Kali and harsh speech had children named Mritu and Biti. Mritu is death and Biti is fear. And from the combination of Mritu and Biti, children named Yatana, excessive pain, and Niraya, hell. So that's the world today. There's a lot of excessive pain, especially mental pain, mental diseases, stress, anxiety, all these things, war, disease, old age, all these things are painful. And everybody's fearful. It's hellish. So that's the family line of Kali. So we should watch out for irreligion and falsity. We should watch out for cheating, not cheat, not speak harshly, not be greedy, not be cunning and angry and envious, because it'll just produce Kali Yuga. So devotees are trying. If we follow devotional life, we will automatically doing the right thing. And just try to fill up our day with Krishna. All right, so I'll leave it. Hopefully we get some questions. I don't know how big of a crowd we have today.
Thank you very much,
Built up
Maharaj.
a little bit. Sahadev is there? Well, yeah.
Yeah, Sahadev
Okay.
is there. Yasuda Mataji, Narayani Mataji, Mother Loka Devi, Hari
Loka,
Chakra,
Hari
Bhakta
Chakra.
Joe,
Wow. Surprise.
is there. Bhakta Severin is here. Mother
Your
Atma Devi,
Bhaktas.
Ajay Prabhu is here.
Atma Devi, yeah, she's always there.
Yeah,
Okay. So we got people from different parts of the world, right?
exactly, Maharaj.
Yeah.
Maharaj, thank you so much for the lecture. That was a beautiful narration and some key advice to help us in our day-to-day spiritual life. Dear devotees, if anyone has a question, please kindly indicate by using the hand emoji or your physical hand, and we'll call you to ask a question. While we're waiting for that, Maharaj, I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay, Maharaj, I
Okay.
have a question. You spoke at the beginning of the lecture. You talked about the deficiency in Maharaj, this is Strarastras not being able to be equal to his subjects or his siblings. You mentioned that the natural duty of a father or a king is that it should be equal to all. And you referenced Krishna book. And I'm wondering, despite the fact that we have access to all of this information and knowledge, we see that even in our own spiritual administration, sometimes we find this quality still manifesting. So how do we respond to this in our relationship within our own system?
Well, that's why we want to hear about the saintly people and how they act. And, it's natural. Our discrimination and prejudices and all these different things, that we're trained up in our life, if we're not, especially if we're raised not as devotees, they pop up. So we have to put it down, to be conscious. Think before you drink, they say. Look before you leap. And especially think before you speak, because if we get a little anger or emotional, we might say something that has a long-term, reverberating bad effect or good effect, depending on, how careful we are. So that's why we have these leelas, And these leelas are showing us, not like the Bhagavad Gita, we have philosophy, right? Bhagavatam, Mahabharata, Ramayana, we have examples of the people. We have examples of envious people, demoniac people, angry people, saintly people. We have we have that. We have all these examples which make it really clear to help us, understand, not just, okay, demons are envious, demons are lusty and angry, but we have we have examples of the good, the bad, and the ugly, of the tamagun and the rajagun and the transcendental gun and the sattva gun. All right, that's.
Thank you, Maharaj.
You have something to say about that? I mean,
yeah, Maharaj, there's no hand up yet, but I have one other question. While during the course of the lecture, you mentioned the importance of, okay, Arishakra Prabhu, just a minute. Maybe I'll allow you to go, then I'll ask my second question after that. Arishakra Prabhu, please unmute and ask a question or comment.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, sir.
My obeisances to you. All glories to you, and all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Yeah, during your deliberation, when you were making mention about how Srimad Bhagavatam explains that. I mean, the main purpose you were saying that the main purpose of Srimad Bhagavatam is for us to understand that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That and we could see also in the Mahabharata also that Sakuni seemed to have recognized that too, because when Duryodhana went to seek for Krishna, the help of Krishna, and Krishna gave him the option to choose either his army or or Krishna himself. So, Duryodhana was so happy that he got the army, and when he came back and he told Sakuni, Sakuni chastised him that you are stupid.
Really?
You should have chosen Krishna. Why did you choose his army, the army? And so if Sakuni could understand this, then how come Sakuni seemed to be the orchestrator of all the bad things that was happening among the gurus? He was like,
they didn't understand exactly what it means that Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He just knew that Krishna was so powerful, but he was also so much hatred of the Pandavas. And he was very, Sakuni is a brother of Gandhari. And he was so angry that, that Bhishma arranged for Gandhari to marry Dhritarashtra. So so these loyalties and all these different things and Kshatriya connections and, it covered people over. Dhritarashtra somehow knew something of Krishna's position also, but he just couldn't understand it. He just got bewildered to try to get what he wanted. So that's another mystery, But Duryodhana was foolish, just like, I don't know, I hope none of us would, but, if somebody said, I'll give you, like so many millions of money or take away everything, but you can have love for Krishna, we might think, well, if I get the money, I can preach and I can do so much and, then I can, I might get bewildered. So you get bewildered by this desire for power, and Krishna covers him over, That's another thing. From Krishna comes remembrance, forgetfulness, and knowledge. So for the Leela, all these characters have to be there, but also Krishna just covers them over. Like in the battle when Karna had that weapon that could kill anyone, but he could only use it once. It was guaranteed. But every day he would forget to use it against Arjuna. That's Krishna. Finally, Gatotkacha come, and then they told him, Gatotkacha would have destroyed the whole Kuru army. And they said, everybody had been telling every day, Karna, you got to use this weapon against Arjuna. And he would forget. But then they all told him, you got to use it right now. You got to use it right now. So he used it for Gatotkacha. But then the weapon's gone. And then Krishna started dancing joyfully. And Arjuna, he said, Krishna, this is our nephew, Gatotkacha, our very dear nephew, the son of Bhima. How can you be so happy? And Krishna said, now you can fight Karna. And besides that, Gatotkacha was doing lots of Rakshasa kind of things and disturbing society. So Krishna said I would have had to kill him anyway. So, these things are not, beyond ordinary Krishna's Leelas. Okay, does that make sense?
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay.
Thank
Sally,
you
you
very
have
much,
it.
Maharaj. Yes, Maharaj. You were talking about the importance of women, protection of women, when we're talking about Drupadi, and how it's one of the cause of this sufferings of the Kauravas. And we see that in modern times, the abuse of women has gone to a different level, even though we hardly find women or mothers like that of the Vedic age. But at the same time, the abuse of womanhood is so high to the extent that you hardly could give a name to it. So what can devotees do to bring to the mind of the populace the importance of protection of women in bringing about a peaceful society?
Well, we can, in our own life, devotees can treat women, very respectfully. That's one thing. Example is very powerful. And if we just raise the consciousness, our own consciousness and the consciousness of people, to be compassionate, to have the basic good qualities of kindness and compassion and respect, then that's what we can do and spread Krishna consciousness. But we have to, charity begins at home. So we have to be very careful, to respect everyone. I know it, as far as I've perceived in the basic culture there in West Africa, is respectful
Side
to
of the
women.
question also, Maharaj, because so
That because they call the woman madam or mother sometimes, the wife, they address women as madam, these are respectful terms. But then sometimes Kali Yuga, the words are there, like devotees will say Prabhu, but they don't have any respect for that person. They just call him Prabhu because that's what we do. Or they say Mataji, but they're not thinking of this woman as a mother. They're just thinking as a woman and get out of my way, So we have to, somehow get understanding because it's just natural. Respect, cultivate that in when we get new devotees, we can't have the old fashioned way Rabindranath Swarup say, in ISKCON, first you become a pure devotee, then you become a human being, and we left out training people to just be good human beings. And sometimes in the Gurukul too. And this is true in other schools. There's all kinds of scholastic, but there's no morality and ethical and all that kind of training. But that's a very important part of the Bhakti program, should be, and raising children also. And show by example. Is that okay? Or you want to say something? Or anybody want to
Thank you,
say
Maharaj.
something? Any women have any advice for us? What do
So,
women want? Women
Mother,
generally, they don't want to be, the supreme leader sitting on the throne and being honored by everybody. They just want to be treated nice. You know, they want to be sheltered. They want to, and that's actually for everybody. The women don't. Men sometimes think, oh, these women, they want this, but they're projecting their own false ego onto the women.
Mhm.
If the men are very good and they're strong and they're fixed in their principles and they protective, the women will be very nice. It's their nature.
Interesting. Thank you very much,
Okay.
Maharaj.
Thank you for
So,
the question.
another one person with question or comments before Maharaj leaves?
Well, Sahadev, the question man, he used to have all these tricky questions, and now
Sahadev is
lately
still
maybe he got satisfied or something. I don't hear it's too much.
Sahadev is still at work, so it's just listening, I guess. I'm sure he has some questions. Maybe we'll ask them in the next opportunity. Mothers, anyone with questions to comment?
But it is
Maharaj?
definitely stated that, the abuse of Draupadi was the cause of the downfall of the Kuru dynasty, and the abuse of Sita was the cause of Ravana's downfall, the whole Rakshasa race. That Prabhupada states. So, we have to be careful. And as I know in our movement, we've had, and we still have, cases of spousal abuse. Many times it's not known. Sometimes the neighbors know all about it because it becomes very noisy. And so it not only hurts the person who's being abused, but it hurts our whole movement, that people think, look at the Hare Krishnas, what they're doing. But if they see that really happy families, happy children, women feel protected, then that helps our preaching so much. A strong family is very powerful. I just read one of my godbrothers wrote something. There was a picture from the 70s of all the devotees in Los Angeles. And so it was mostly householders, and there was so many small children. And he was saying how one of the Maharajas, she had 2 children. So, having 2 children is a lot of work. And she was lamenting that, I can't do very much service. I have to take care of my children. Then I don't know, it was a Sunday feast or sometime, she came out from her house and she was dressed very nicely in a sari, and the 2 children were dressed very, very nicely in sari or, devotee clothes and tilak and neck beads. And then there was a visiting couple there. And then he heard this, the woman of the visiting couple, just see how beautiful that family looks. This is such a wonderful way to raise children. And so that's very big preaching, to have a really happy families. Because the Mormons, that's their whole preaching practically, the family, you know. So, we have a few sannyasis and a few lifetime brahmacharis, and they're important, but mostly we're going to have householders. And if we have very happy families, and I've seen one church there in I think it was in Accra. Every time we drive by, they have big ads about what beautiful families, they come and join us, and they attract a lot of people. So, it's very good preaching, happy devotees, happy families. And mostly we have that, but but, and if there is somebody misbehaving, we need to help them and teach them and do something to correct the problem, so people know we don't tolerate these things.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yeah.
As a follow-up of this question, I'm just thinking, in the last 2 decades of our movement, there has been a kind of a reduction in the attraction of new devotees. Unlike in the 70s, 80s, and maybe mid-90s. From the 2000s, in the last 2 decades, we've seen, and not only in Africa, but globally, apart from India, where we see that a lot of people still are attracted and joining the movement, especially getting committed to full-time devotional service. We've seen this reduction in acceptance and taking to the proper devotional service. And it gives concern because this movement is supposed to last for the next 10,000 years. But we just in the 5th, 6th, 7th century, the decades of our existence as an organization. So I'm wondering what could be the problem and what do we do to address this situation? It's very disturbing, Maharaj.
Well, there's many factors, and in some countries, I think still in South America and Eastern Europe, we're still attracting a lot of new people. India is unbelievable. How people are flooding in. It's just phenomenal, and how popular Hare Krishna is. But and in America, Indian people are joining a lot and becoming serious devotees. And when devotees started making a special effort to go for the non-Indian people, they're also getting some good results. But the diaspora, I think you call it, or whatever you call it, that the whole consciousness of the, like say America, where I'm a little more familiar, it's changed so much. In the 60s, America was kind of on top of the world, and life was, everyone could go to the university. It was cheap. Families were pretty good for the most part, and people got a chance to think about life and spiritual things, and many people were joining. But then, things go crazy, economies change, the mood changes, people become, somehow more materialistic, success spoiled them, too much sense gratification or whatever. Now it's kind of going back. There's more interested in spirituality, but then the cheaters are everywhere, with so many cheating, so-called religions, or not even religion, not just religion will get you money, and you just get it by manifesting and all these crazy things. But at the same time, so we can pray and try to make new people. When the movement was new in any country and everybody was young and enthusiastic, and they weren't thinking about maintenance or anything because they didn't have much to maintain, and they just thought, trying to get everybody to join. You should join us. This is great, But then you start having families and children and properties, and we get bewildered by maintenance and afraid to expand, even some of us, because we've had so much trouble with people joining and then stealing or making trouble, or we spend a lot of energy to cultivate someone and then they turn against us. So we're being tested. But then if you look in some places, they're still getting a lot of new people. Some preachers are very successful in different ways. Sometimes it's called bridge preaching, or something. And many devotees with this so-called bridge preaching. I just saw an article. It might have been on Dundabat, or I can't remember where it came from. I think it was from some big publication, though, about these monks who are become very popular, life coaches like Gyana. He's got a huge following. Gyana Chakshush. This Gaur Gopal, he's got millions of followers on Instagram and YouTube and everything else you can think of. And now this Swayam Bhagavan Krishna, he was there in Ghana. He's got millions of followers also. And he's preaching, but the subjects are always, doesn't sound like spiritual so much, but it is spiritual, And so we're catching people, but maybe not ashram, moving into the ashram, but getting people to pick up on basic principles of spiritual life. And some places, in India, I went around Delhi, and every temple is full of new bhaktas, and millions of, or not, thousands of guests coming every day practically, what to speak on a Sunday. So that we have to be in that loving mood. If we're busy, with other things, and we don't attract people. But people are interested, they want Krishna, So we have to be wanting to give it to people, but can't expect everybody, like in the early days, to just move in the ashram. I was never there in the early days of preaching in West Africa, but I've heard it was a whole different world, Nigerian economy was on top of when Bhakti Tirtha first came there. The economy was very good, on top of the world, and young people were thinking and looking for something. They were materially comfortable and going to university and materially doing good. But then things change. The environment of the whole world changes, or the war has come, or something. Like Ukraine and Russia were two of the places where the preaching was the best in the world, and seriously, people joining and expanding, and then this horrible war comes, and even the devotees that are Russian and Ukraine are turning against each other, So Kali Yuga is working so hard to stop it. But Harinama Eva Kevalam, take shelter, have more. I've been seeing on YouTube now in Kumasi, they're having a lot of kirtan programs and kirtan melas and everything. And we're getting really good reports from Lagos with book distribution and Harinam. And, and there are new people coming. Yodanath is crying for a vehicle because he's got another new devotees that want to travel and do Harinam all over the country. So I got to hustle, and I just don't have a lot of contacts with the really wealthy people, But somehow also and try to get something. All right.
Thank you very much, Maharaj. Maharaj, since no one is asking a question, maybe it's an opportunity for me, because we really have an opportunity to have your association, Maharaj. If you will permit me, I have one follow-up question with this question.
Yeah.
You said something. You said something in the course of answering this, my last question, regarding the dynamics of modern times, how the economy, how the social status, how so many things has led to the factor that made a different kind of an attraction to devotees and devotees preaching. And you gave an example of Swayam Bhagwan Maharaj and a few other devotees. And we also have had this kind of an experience here that in recent times, by the mercy of Gurudev, we've had opportunity to be able to preach at different level. And people generally and maybe probably I would like you to speak on this, is that what is the future? We know that according to the ages, there are different focus for religious principles. I'm looking at the future of deity worship in some of these geographical locations where we don't have many devotees. I was in Portugal now last year, November. I went to the temple. In that temple, the temple has shrunk from what I used to know that temple to be like. It has shrunk, and I have just some few. Practically, there was only two devotees on duty. There are about 6 or 7 persons there in that temple, and that's the temple that used to have a congregation of over 500, 400 in that temple in Portugal. So it's not just like Nigeria's situation. And my concern is, what is the future of deity worship in this part of this world where we have this kind of a decline in people joining full time? What is the future of our deity worship?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know, but it's happening in many places. It happened in America in, I guess, in the 80s or 90s after Prabhupada left, And one reason was that in the time of Prabhupada, there was this tremendous energy for people joining. One reason was the atmosphere of the temples and, the fact that Prabhupada was around, that the planet was really blessed. And temple presidents were not very sensitive to taking care of devotees. And there was a lot of kicking devotees out. But there were a lot of new people coming, so they somehow survived. But then things changed and people weren't joining, but they were still kicking people out. And then they end up with a lot of deities because they thought, we want to have the biggest temple, we want to have lots of deities, we want to show that we're really big. And then they end up with no devotees. And then, there's no preaching because they're just taking care of the deities. So we have to be careful about, installing deities and trying to have elaborate temples, because, like you said, it takes, a lot of manpower. We want to focus on devotee care and chanting the holy name and, following the principles and, you know what I mean? So, but what deities we have to do our best and take care. Like you see in Vrindavan, for instance, there's so many temples. Some of them, we never see them, if you just walk around all the back roads of Vrindavan, but there's so many temples. And if you go inside, they're very big, but it's just a family, a few people, but they keep it going, uh, so hopefully we can do that. But one reason is we didn't have, the loving atmosphere to keep people wanting to be in our association. They joined because it was there, in the early days. but then it somehow fizzles out. Somebody mistreats devotees, somebody, whatever reason, people lose, they lose faith. They're not serious. They're struggling for existence. So many devotees, they get married, and then if they realize it's, like when when somebody came to Prabhupada and said, I want to get married, they say, how will you support your wife? What are you going to do to support the wife? It's not that you can just get married and then enjoy a partner or have a servant. You got to take care. So we have to teach people economic realities, and start all over again. But it'll come back, everything goes like,
Yeah.
if you go in the hospital and people are hooked up to all these machines, so it's going up and down, the needle's going up and down, that means they're still alive. But sometimes it's very weak. Sometimes it's better, if it flatline is called dead, flatliners, the needle's not moving anymore. It's not going up, it's not going down. So we've kind of flatlined our preaching, for different reasons. I think like Ganachuk Shoes, for instance, in West Africa and all over the world now with Ghanaian people, he's tapped into a way to connect with them and get them to follow principles. And some people become very serious devotees, but he gets, vegetarian, ecodicey, like all these things, but good behavior. And he's attracting good type of people that they're not joining because they're down and out and they need shelter. They're joining, because they're getting something from it. And there's devotees all over the world doing things like that. The devotee in Russia that made the most devotees, his preaching is Ayurveda and, all kinds of things like that. But most of the devotees who've joined in many years come from his preaching. And he creates these sattva clubs and they get together and, but then they read Bhagavad Gita, they learn principles. Many devotees doing things like that in different countries, different languages. America also, many of our so-called youth, now they're like 40, 50 years old, like the age of my children. But they have huge numbers of thousands of followers even for philosophical teaching, for kirtan, but they don't connect them exactly with temples so much, because people are this, spiritual but not religious thing. So they have to cater to that mentality. They think if there's a big organization, then it's not spiritual, it's religious, and we don't want that because they're burned out, So devotees are finding ways to reach out and bring more and more people. And when we tried to, older devotees talked to some of them and talked about results, they get really upset. They said, we we're not always after immediate numbers of people joining or people giving all their money or how many books you sold. We're going, step by step to get people, sometimes you have to bring people to human life before you can bring them to spiritual life. Kali Yuga people, they're so degraded or they're so full of diseases or addictions, and you have to babysit them for a long time before you can introduce them to a society of devotees, So like in West Africa now, I don't know, at least in Nigeria, I've heard, the economy is so atrocious, right? But somehow or other, people are living. People are eating and sleeping and talking on their cell phones and they have internet. But we can't be preaching to give up everything and move in the ashram, especially, people are married, they have kids, they're caught up with debts and, all kinds of things. But we can give people love and affection and, concern and understanding, that look at what the Christians are doing. Now, so many of them are just cheating people, promising we'll make you rich and making the pastor rich, but there are really sincere ones also that are trying to give people some kind of religious life. They may not be vegetarian, but they're trying to bring people to good family life or, get them away from intoxication and things like that, which is very good. Okay. So I have
Thank
great
you very
hope
much.
for what
Thank you very much, Maharaj. And
Africans
we'll
are
keep
being
praying and
exploited somehow or other. Nowadays I see on the internet so many people talking about Africa being the origin of human civilization. It used to be African, we're cavemen and half ape, and they somehow evolved into white men. But now they're saying, that Africans are the original civilization. But it's true that Africa is the most opulent continent as far as natural resources. But somehow or other, the people have been exploited by the demons who want those resources.
thank you
But,
very much, Maharaj, for this.
pray, spread the holy name, because the way Prabhupada said that Krishna consciousness will take over the world is by the spreading of the Sankirtan movement. The atmosphere, the environment will become purified and elevated, and people will demand, in one way or another, a proper government and proper life, but that's not going to happen overnight. But it is happening, and it's happened in India naturally. Prabhupada came back to India, he was, and he didn't have an easy time when he first came to India either. But now it's just unbelievable how popular Hare Krishna is, and how much. When Gopal Krishna Maharaj left his body, within 3 hours, they had a letter from Modi glorifying Gopal Krishna and ISKCON, and letters from 3 or 4 other state ministers, and from the head of the Sri Sampradaya glorifying Gopal Krishna Maharaj, and ISKCON. This is how it is now. But it was just because devotees stuck it out and preached and distributed books and when I first went to Delhi, Radha Parthasarthi were living in a very small house that none of our life members would even live in, that small of a house with their 2 children, and that was the temple. And now there's 18 temples, full-on temples in Delhi. What to speak of satellite temples and Bhakti-vriksha centers and, all these other things going on.
Yeah.
Because devotees just kept preaching and following strictly and meeting people so they know who you are. Get out. Charlie Boy told me, you people have to get out and meet people. Have to meet people. They don't know who you are. They think you're crazy. He said he had the same experience, People met him and one guy told him, you're intelligent. I thought you were a crazy drug addicted, madman. And he said, it's the same thing with you. People think you're just, even Charlie Boy told us, I was with Mahavishnu Swami at his house. And then he was going to interview us for television, and the power went out, which was a regular occurrence. And so for like 3 hours, we had to wait because he couldn't use the cameras. And so we had a long talk. And he said, wow, you have so much philosophy. I never knew you had any philosophy. I thought you guys were just singing and dancing. But that's our main thing is singing and dancing. That's what everybody loves, you know. But you know, we do have philosophy, we do have a lifestyle, and it's beneficial. And grow your own food, you know, grow your own food, produce your own food, produce your own food. Very important. Please work on that, everybody. Bhakti Tirtha, you know, wanted that so badly. All right. So you want to glorify Bhakti Tirtha Swami, grow your own food, and love each other. Love
Thank you
the
very much.
devotees. All right.
Thank you
Love,
very much,
love, love.
Maharaj. Your advice.
Love is all you need, the Beatles said.
I guess
Right.
Krishna consciousness will grow by Krishna's arrangement. Maybe probably not the
growing.
way we wanted it to be. Not the way we
It's
think.
growing, but not visibly sometimes.
Yeah.
Just like you plant a seed, it grows underground first.
Very true.
And
Thank you very much.
some seeds grow very quickly up like peanuts or something. But if you plant cashew or, high class nuts, then the tree takes a long time to grow, and then it takes a long time to get fruit or mango or something. But then you get something very valuable, but you don't
Yeah.
see it right away. So, don't get discouraged that, just take it as a challenge. You should see, Japan, it's so hard to get people to commit themselves, but when they do, they're very good. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Maharaj.
Quite a
I
bit of
guess-
your time.
Thank you. We appreciate you being with us for this long, Maharaj. So I
No,
guess
it's
at this time,
I'm hoping to get there pretty soon in August, probably.
oh, great. We hope you'll be around here, Maharaj, during the Jamashtami so that we can have association.
Oh, yeah, that would be, I just have to.
We're planning to have the Indian ambassador to the temple in Jos for Jamashtami this year. So hopefully maybe if you're around the country around that time.
Is that August or September? When is that last? Anyway, that's the time I would hope to be there in August. I've got to get moving. I just got hung up here in Bali with waiting for some new books. And of course, every time I want to make books, there's always delays, one thing after another. Can't be in a hurry. And sometimes you can be in a hurry, but there's a saying, when you're in a hurry, take a detour, be careful.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Maharaj. We're very grateful
Okay.
for the session.
Hare
At this
Krishna.
moment, I request all of the
Camera.
devotees to please kindly
Camera,
unmute.
microphone.
Let us all loudly chant a loud Hare Krishna Mahamantra to appreciate Maharaj for giving us this association.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare.
Hare.
Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. Vanchakarpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyascha patitanam pavaishnabhyo. Vaishnava Bhinde ki jai. His Holiness Kavicandra Swami Maharaj ki jai.
Jai.
Founder Charles Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
All glories to assemble devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.